Hi everyone, and welcome to the first in the series of the Jericho Writers How to Write a Novel series, Name Your Characters. I'm author Sarah Juckes, and here's a big secret about me. I am obsessed with character names. When done right, character names can reveal hidden depths to your novel. The kind that gets book groups quivering with excitement. And when done wrong, they can really make someone want to put a novel down. So in this video, I'll go through some fun, practical tips for character naming and unveil one secret to creating the ultimate name for your protagonist. So you ready? Let's go! First, here's the biggest mistake writers can make when creating character names in their novel. But rather than tell you, let me demonstrate. Here's a paragraph from a novel that includes 5 characters. Marnie stared at Minnie. She didn't know what Marianne had said to her, but whatever it was, it had left her furious. That was the thing about Marianne. She never knew when to shut up. She'd done the same to Michael, to the point where he'd left Mitchell. She couldn't let that happen to her. Confused? Me too. This writer has made some classic mistake of making their character names too similar. They all begin with M, and when we have multiple similarly named characters in the same novel, this can leave a reader feeling really confused and frustrated. So let's try that again with some different character names this time. Marnie stared at Jill. She didn't know what Abigail had said to her, but whatever it was, it had left her furious. That was the thing about Abigail. She never knew when to shut up. She'd done the same to Frank, to the point where he'd left Joseph. She couldn't let that happen to her. See the difference? Not only do these character names all have different first letters, but they also have different syllable lengths as well. So that's our first tip in creating character names. Keep them varied. But not too varied. In fact, a lot of writers can also go the other way, which leads us to tip number 2. Take this for example. Kroggerelf plunged his sword into the back of Huelga, and Schmeeb let out a cry of despair. See how I struggle to pronounce each of those? Well, your reader will too. And the more obstacles you put in the way of your reader while reading, then the more you take them out of the action and thinking about putting your book down. So here's tip number 2. Don't make your character names too exotic. Or if you need to, perhaps because your story is set somewhere exotic, then try and keep the long ones to a minimum. Instead, give your characters nicknames or names that are made from universal sounds. So let's try this line from that novel again. Crow plunged his sword into the back of Helga, and Shiva let out a cry of despair. So now we've covered the main mistakes writers make with character names, we can get right into the fun stuff, including the secret to creating the ultimate name for your protagonist. But first, remember I said you can make reading groups go giddy with your character names? Well, here's how you can do that. Choose a name which has a hidden meaning for your character's role in the story. And there are a couple of ways that you can do this, and all of them are really, really fun to do. But first, we need to do something. Take one of your characters and think about their role in the story. Now, I'm not talking about things like they are the antagonist here. I'm talking about what they represent to themselves and to the protagonist. So let's take my character Willow from my first novel, for example. Why did I call him that? Well, for my protagonist, her primary drive is finding proof that there is an outside world after being locked inside a room for most of her life. And for her, outside means trees. So when she escapes and stumbles into my character Willow, guess what this represents to her and the book group studying my book? My protagonist has found her outside in him. So how can you inject similar meaning into your character names? My personal favourite tip forms tip number 3. Use baby naming websites. Baby name websites are obsessed with name meanings. They list the etymology of the name, its cultural connotations, and even where in the world it first originated. So did you think about what your character represents in your novel? Let's say that was loyalty. Simply type names that means loyal into a baby name search engine, and we have a list of male and female names to choose from. Here's a list of them I found on meaningofnames.com, and let's say that we will then go for Dylan. Remember to keep those first 2 tips in mind when choosing. Keep them different, keep them universal. So let's look at this in action. Let's say you have 2 minor characters who are secretly in love. You can use the meaning behind their names to create hidden meaning in your writing. For instance, one character could be Connor, which means lover of wolves, and the other could be Lowell, meaning young wolf. Your readers are unlikely to pick this up as they read unless they have an encyclopedic knowledge of name meanings. But little Easter eggs like these are quite fun ways of adding hidden depth to your writing, as well as solving the question of what the hell to call them. But there are also other ways of doing this that are not so subtle. So tip 4 is think about the connotations in popular culture. For example, let's say you have a doomed romantic hero. You could call him Romeo, or maybe even a modern twist on the name such as Rome, or even Theo. You can also use this as a device for twisting expectations. So perhaps your male hero is called Romeo, maybe it's your female protagonist that's called Romeo. You'll be surprised what connotations a reader will bring to a name, and you can use it to create hidden meaning. And so that leaves us with my final tip for naming characters, the secret to the ultimate name for your protagonist. And the secret is that it doesn't suck. A protagonist's name shouldn't jar, it shouldn't annoy or confuse a reader. So how can you ensure that? You keep it to its time. A character living in Tudor times would not be called Wendy. That name was extremely rare before Peter Pan was published in 1904. You keep it to its place. French novels deserve French names, bearing in mind those previous tips. And you like it. You will have to be writing this a lot, so name your protagonist like you would name your child. Otherwise, you are the writer. You can call your characters anything you want, but bear the reader in mind. These tips will ensure you excite your reader with your character names and not frustrate them. So remember, keep your character names different. Keep them universal. Use baby naming websites. Play with popular culture. And don't create names that suck. So think about your characters and what they represent, then go have some fun naming them. For more help, we have a free character builder template ready to be downloaded for free. Just click the link below to get yours and create characters worthy of their names. This has been Sarah Juckes for Jericho Writers. Happy writing!